He Has Risen, a story of forgiveness by Candace Clorinda. One by one, Jesus carefully washed the feet of his disciples. When Jesus got to Judas, he hesitated for just a second, knowing that he would be the one to betray him. It hurt, knowing that one of the men that he loved so dearly would turn on him for the sake of greed. Still, it was how it was supposed to be. He gently washed the dirt away and tried not to think about how this man, his friend, would be his downfall. When the task was done, Jesus led his disciples to the supper that he knew would be his last. When the conversation had died down and everyone had eaten their fill, Jesus announced that one among them would betray him. One by one, each disciple asked if he would be the one to betray him, and to each he said no, until it was finally Judas's turn to ask the question, and Jesus informed Judas that it would be him. Jesus left this Last Supper to prepare for what he knew was about to happen. He knew that there was no other way, but he was not looking forward to the pain that he knew he was about to endure. Judas took the silver. Jesus was brutally crucified and entombed. For 3 days he laid in the tomb as his friends, family, and disciples mourned the loss of the man they had come to love. However, on the 3rd day, Jesus was alive again. The stone rolled away from Jesus' tomb, and before he did anything else, he went to go find Judas. Upon finding the disciple who betrayed him hanged to death, Jesus brought him back to life. Disoriented, Judas reanimated to find Jesus holding him, and a flash of fear could be seen in the eyes of the betrayer. He had killed himself because he could not face the grief of the harm that had fallen upon Jesus because of him. At that moment, he thought Jesus had brought him back to life to punish him. His eyes were the only thing that betrayed that fear, as Judas could not yet find his voice. Jesus, seeing the fear in his eyes, assured Judas he was not there to hurt him, but to forgive him. However, Judas did not understand. He had betrayed his friend, the man he loved, all for a few silver coins. Jesus put a finger to Judas's lips to stop the apologies and humiliation that had started coming from them the moment Judas found his voice. Jesus assured Judas that all of this was his Father's design. It was as it was supposed to be. He could not have saved the world if he didn't die for the sins of mankind, and that included Judas's sin of greed. Tears streamed down Judas's face as he could not believe that this beautiful light of a man could forgive such a betrayal. Suddenly, Judas was caught off guard as Jesus moved his finger from Judas's lips and quickly continued to silence him with a kiss. It didn't take long before Judas was returning Jesus' kiss. As Judas started grabbing for Jesus' clothes, Jesus informed Judas, in between passionate kisses, that there was something he needed to tell him. Judas insisted that it could wait, but Jesus told him that it couldn't. It was at that moment that Jesus guided Judas to his chest, and Judas gasped as he felt the fabric binding Jesus' breasts. Jesus explained that as his conception was immaculate, there was no male seed to give him male traits, so he could only take on the traits of his mother. Jesus went on to tell Judas that he had always been a man, but with no male material to give him the male traits, he was forced to be born in the body of a woman, a body that did not align with what Jesus knew in his heart he truly was. Judas didn't care, male body or female body, it didn't matter. Judas had always loved Jesus. Judas kissed Jesus deeply and continued to grab at Jesus' clothes until he was nearly completely naked. All that was left was the binding fabric that covered his boobs, and Jesus wasn't comfortable with that coming off. For a second, Judas looked at Jesus in all his mostly naked glory and admired the man that laid before him. Now it was Jesus' turn to get Judas naked. In quick succession, Jesus had Judas unclothed and on his back. Judas tried to wrestle Jesus back to the ground that he had been laying on only moments before, but Jesus put one strong hand on Judas's chest and with the other guided Judas's member into him. Judas cried out as Jesus rode him hard, grinding Judas into him over and over, never wanting to stop. Jesus had never felt so much need in his life. He needed Judas like he needed air. He grasped at Judas's shoulders, wanting him closer, needing him to fill him fully. Judas used this movement to his advantage. In seconds, Jesus was under him. Judas thrust into Jesus, feeling so much joy and relief for being forgiven, for being in the embrace of the man he loved. All Judas wanted was to show his appreciation for Jesus' kindness with every thrust of his throbbing member. Jesus climaxed only moments before Judas did, and the two stayed there, intertwined in the grass, unmoving, gasping for air. After a time, the two walked to a nearby well to get some water, which Jesus turned into wine for both of them. Shortly after that, God sent his messenger to Jesus and Judas to let Jesus know it was time to finish what had been started. Jesus bid farewell to his lover and promised him that he would be back as soon as his tasks were done. Judas waited there, laying on the grass that he and Jesus had made love in. When Jesus had finished all that was required of him, he made his way back to Judas, and the two made their way to a far-off land where nobody would know who they were. They built a little farm and worked the land. The two made passionate love every chance they got, claiming every surface of the home they had built with every thrust and every climax. The couple could not keep their hands off of each other. Any moment that they were not in each other's arms was a moment that made them long for that warm embrace. Jesus found out quickly that Judas was not only skilled with his member, but also with his mouth. Judas's tongue made Jesus weak every time he laid Jesus back and explored every bit of his cavern like a thirsty man traveling the desert. Judas could not get enough of Jesus. There were not enough hours in the day for what he wanted to do with the man he worshipped. Every ounce of Judas's energy went into pleasing the Son of God. When Judas gave Jesus the opportunity to please him, Jesus enthusiastically sucked on Judas's member. However, it was never long before Judas was reaching for Jesus's clit, distracting him from the task at hand, and the next thing Jesus would know, Judas was using his mouth on him. Judas's need to taste Jesus was so overwhelming that he could not help himself. It wasn't long before Jesus gave birth to their first child, a little girl named Judith, affectionately called Judy. 2 years later, they welcomed their first son, Joseph, named for Jesus' stepfather. The year after that, they welcomed John into their growing family. 3 years after that, they had their final child, Jennifer. With 4 beautiful children, their family was complete. Despite having 4 children close in age, the couple did everything they could to enjoy every moment that they had alone. They never missed an opportunity to fall into each other's arms, no matter how brief that opportunity was. The couple took the time to teach their children how to care for and respect the land and animals. They showed them what plants were good to eat and what plants could help heal the sick. Soon, their children were all grown up and having children of their own. It is the descendants of Jesus and Judas that have made up the majority of the accomplished midwives, medics, witches, doctors, and other healers throughout history.
Hi there, my name is Candace Clarendon. I go by I Love Sess Filmora on social media, and I am the author of the story that you just listened to. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, I hope you'll check out the links in my link tree down below. You'll be able to find a copy of the story that you just listened to for purchase. You'll also be able to find many other ways to support me. Big shout out and thank you to my reader who has helped my sanity more than they will ever know. Thank you. I really hope you enjoyed.
Suddenly, Judas was taken off guard. Suddenly, Judas was caught off... Okay, fuck you.